Rehab is very, very overlooked within bodybuilding. I think everything surrounding rehab, stretching, kind of mobility work, all that stuff, I think it's very overlooked. And I don't think people understand how important it really is. So talk to me a little bit about how you view it and what your opinions are.
So, as dealing with athletes, because at the end of the day, bodybuilders are athletes, there's always going to be an urge to come back as quickly as possible and do things as quickly as possible. There's always going to be an urge to work around things, and I see this all the time. I get pain when I do X lifts, so I'm just going to do this instead, which I completely understand because I have been on the other side of the coin as the athlete and I've done my rehab. I herniated my disc really badly last year, which actually prompted me to get rehab, which is what got me into learning rehab because of how effective it was. So I very much do understand what it's like. As soon as you start a couple of weeks of rehab, you stop feeling pain, and suddenly you're like, yeah, I could just go back to doing what I was doing before. Um, so I think the issue becomes is sort of managing expectations and being the person, the voice of reason, and actually holding people back sometimes without being, overly a cunt about it. A lot
Mm.
of bodybuilders either won't do their rehab, they'll neglect it, or they'll half-ass their rehab. A lot of bodybuilders don't do mobility work. Not that mobility work is as important as people make it out to seem. It is, but I think there are other important things to tick off from an injury perspective and from a functionality perspective. But I think the general sort of approach to it, bodybuilders already have quite a lot on their plate, especially if they're in prep. The food, the training, the cardio, steps, all of this, right? For you to slap on an additional, half an hour of rehab or 45 minutes of rehab 3 times a week, plus some daily mobility, it can be a lot to handle and a lot to manage. But like I said, I think it is really, really, really fucking beneficial because mechanically, what you do in the gym, whether you have a compensation like a hip shift or, a shoulder hike or a T-spine restriction, whatever it is, no amount of soft tissue, no amount of fucking massage is going to fix that. And I run into this issue myself. By trade, I'm an osteopath, so I very much specialize in the hands-on stuff. They didn't teach me any rehab at uni. I had to learn that myself. And obviously, I did my disc, and I was like, right, I'm just going to get some soft tissue. I'm going to go get massage, all of this. And yes, it would clear up my symptoms, but because the aggravating factor was what I was doing in the gym, aka the hip shift, the hip hike, etc., inevitably every time I would go back, I just get flare up.
Mhm.
And then the question arises like, what is this a management thing? Is this like I'm going to have to get a massage after every leg day because I'm limping and I have sciatica? Rehab focuses very much on treating the issue long term. Manual therapy is fantastic for getting a quick relief of symptoms. It's really, really good in the short term. But if you don't address the underlying cause, then it becomes a management strategy rather than a treatment strategy. Whereas rehab takes a little bit longer to ramp up, and you might not get the benefits of rehab as quickly, but those benefits are much longer lasting if you do them properly.
Mhm. Yeah, I think, like you said, it's the long term fix rather than short term. I think we live in a world where everyone expects things to be quick and everyone expects things to happen overnight. And a lot of the time that's not the case. So I think the reason why it's overlooked is similar to what you said about time management. It's like everyone prioritizes training, everyone prioritizes their steps and cardio because they think they're the things that progress them forwards or makes their mobility better or whatever. Um, when actually the most beneficial thing, which is overlooked by everyone, including myself, like I'm not here preaching that I do loads and loads of stretches because I don't. Um, but I think it's very important to know that that also has a very similar effect as training would have on your physique, as steps would have on your fat loss. It's kind of like you can only train so hard, and then you're going to run into issues if you're not if you're not addressing the underlying issues that are causing you to have sciatica flare-ups when you're training legs, or have shoulder pain or discomfort when training push, or like whatever, there's always that underlying cause that people don't really get into. Um, and I think that's where it's important to know that half an hour of rehab, that 45 minutes or half an hour, 45 minutes of daily stretching is actually really, really beneficial in terms of your progression, but also the way you train and how hard you can train and the limits you get toward that. Do you agree?
I would say so. I think stretching doesn't offer any recovery benefits.
Mm,
The main reason that I would prescribe stretching to people is for posing.
hmm
And that's like one of the biggest things that I cover. It's like, okay, you have a sticky scap, or your hip struggles to externally rotate, so you're not getting definition through the leg, or you might have a slight twist in the pelvis, for example. These things, bodybuilding is very much about presentation and symmetry. And there has been a shift in the narrative of like people taking their posing much more seriously.
mm,
But in order to take your posing seriously, you also have to have the adequate mobility in order to present your physique. That is an aspect of that. And this is definitely something that I've picked up with myself. I had a functional scoliosis growing up, and a bunch of doctors and physios and lecturers at my uni told me, "Oh, you have scoliosis. There's nothing you can do about it." I remember it used to fucking kill me growing up because I was like, "Oh, I'd be such a good bodybuilder if my back was straight." I want to compete
mm,
in classic, which is about symmetry, and this lat doesn't flare out as much, and this hip doesn't externally rotate as much. And I was like, "Do you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna fix it. I'm gonna try and fix it." Lord and behold, a couple of weeks into rehab, things are really starting to look up. But it just comes to show like a lot of the presentation that you have on stage, like there's so much that goes into it. And we always talk about as bodybuilders, like the 1% is like what's going to make you stand out. Realistically, the bar has been set really high these days. Most people are training really hard. Most people are doing their cardio, they're sticking to the plan, etc. How do you stand out on stage? Well, majority of people don't do their mobility work. Majority of people don't, they half-ass their presentation.
hmm
And that's really going to give you that extra edge. I think also in terms of injury prevention, so going back to how stretching isn't beneficial for recovery, a big thing that I recommend for a lot of my clients is actually just having an adequate warm-up sequence. A
mm,
lot of people get into the gym and they'll start fucking swinging their arms around like this and then get on a bench press and start pressing 3 plates. And, you know, yes, mobility is important, but the way I structure things is like, you might have like one or two exercises that work on key areas where you lack mobility, but the reason you lack the mobility is because there's a stability deficit elsewhere.
hmm
The sensation of you lacking mobility is actually coming from your nervous system. It's a guarding mechanism being like, hey, don't stretch this muscle because you might injure yourself. If you got put under general anesthetic, chances are you could move that joint 2 to 3 times more than what you can move it actively. So the way I structure things is like I said, I might do like one or two mobility drills in the specific areas that are weak, but the majority of the warm up sequence isn't mobility, it's stability, because these stability exercises reinforce that new position and you go and actually use it within your training because inevitably your nervous system reverts back to the position that it's always strongest in. So let's say you do a wall slide and you get an extra 3 degrees of shoulder flexion. Cool, lovely, but you then go and train shoulder flexion and your nervous system is like, hold on, I need to be where I'm strongest. It's not going to use that additional 3 degrees of shoulder flexion
yeah.
because you haven't reinforced it. So the majority of sort of your rehab based work or like your injury prevention based work shouldn't be mobility at all. It should be the stability based stuff and reinforcing the range of motion that you're working so hard to get.
Okay. Run me through how you would structure a warm up then.
So again, it's going to be context dependent on what the person is restricted in. So I'm going to use myself as an example. I had a sticky scap. I had a really underperforming serratus anterior, and I had a restriction in my ribs. So my right lower ribs couldn't expand properly, and my left upper ribs couldn't expand properly. So it was like a shift in my torso. So in order to counteract that, I'll go in, I'll do a serratus wall slide, which stretches the serratus. I'll do some rib breathing exercises, which are really, really beneficial because, like I said, opening up the rib cage, everything around the rib cage functions only as well as the rib cage works. So
Hmm.
I do find mobility work for the ribs is really beneficial. And then I'll go into the stability based stuff. So I'll do something like a cable rotation, for example. I think they're called wood choppers. Really fucking beneficial. I'll do something like a leg raise plank to work for the abdominals to make sure that everything is set in place. I'll do a Y raise, really, really good for reinforcing shoulder flexion and working on the lower traps, which helps the scap actually move properly. And then sometimes I might actually put a band when I do the wall slides, or I might do something called a serratus punch with the cable, which allows you to obviously load it and progress it.
Hmm.
Um, so, like I said, I still do a little bit of mobility work, especially in the key areas that are really restricted for me. But I do majority of the focus on the stability based stuff because that's what actually reprograms your nervous system and creates that change long term.
Yeah. Um, Obviously that depends on the muscle group you're training, correct?
100%. So I have a separate warm up drill for my upper and lower days.
Hmm.
On my lower days, I might focus more so on my pelvis. I'll still work on my ribs because that's universally restricted for me. But I might work on stacking the pelvis under the ribs correctly. I'll do some hip stretches to open up the hips. Hip aeroplanes is a fucking fantastic exercise. But any of those listening, try that one out. But again,
How would you perform a hip aeroplane without showing on camera?
well, so I'd probably find a surface to stabilize yourself on because you're probably going to topple over. But in essence, you're kind of getting into a hinge position without bending your knees or very, very minimal knee bend. So you're almost like parallel with the floor, standing on one leg. So let's say I'm standing on my right leg, parallel with the floor, left leg is in the air directly behind me, and I'm holding on to something. You place the hand with the hip that you're standing on that hip, and all you're doing is rotating the pelvis up, rotating the pelvis down. And the cue that I give is like use your knee to track the movement. You want to get your knee as far away from the opposite knee as you can, and then as close to the opposite knee as you can. And it's just a really, really good way for getting, like I said, that the movement in the pelvis, which a lot of people are restricted in.
Sick. How did you get into osteopath in the first place? What was the drive towards that for you?
Funnily enough, I actually didn't know what osteopathy was when I went to uni. I when I finished A levels, I got pretty good grades. All my mates were going to do like sports science and stuff, and I was like, look, I think I can do something a little bit more. Not to say that sports science isn't engaging, but I was like, I think I have the grades to do something more.
Hmm.
And I remember chatting to my lecturer at the time, and he was like, "Have you heard of osteopathy?" And like, as anyone who asks me about osteopathy who doesn't know what it is, they're like, "Oh, it must be bones." I was like, "Oh yeah, it's probably something to do with like anatomy." Fuck knows. I was like, "That sounds cool. Yeah, I'll sign up for that." And I remember rocking up to my first lecture. I still didn't know what osteopathy was. I was 18 and
No
naive.
research done in that
Uh,
time period.
No research done. I was 18 and naive, but I remember getting into the first lecture and Stephen Buss was our first lecturer. He was introducing what osteopathy was, and he was like, you're helping the body heal itself. You're doing like massaging techniques. He mentioned cracking, like the manipulations when you do adjustments. I was like, oh, sick. That's really fucking cool. And like after the first like 50-minute introduction, he was like, right, cool. Everyone take the clothes off. We're gonna do some anatomy. And I remember all the blokes like looking at each other, being like, what the fuck is going on? Like literally the very first lecture, we were all just standing in our underwear, being like, this muscle is there, and this movement does this, and then massaging each other. So it was definitely an interesting sort of jump into things from the beginning. But I think when I truly fell in love in osteopathy was in the third year, because that's when we actually did placement and we start treating patients in clinic. And what makes it such a fun profession for me is the fact that you have that interaction with the patient and you see their progression from when they first come in and they're injured and they can't do this exercise and they're getting their symptom to gradually getting them better and better and more confident and more functional and all of this. to
Hmm.
inevitably discharge them at the end when, they bring in a box of chocolates and they're so grateful. They're like, I can do this again and I don't have pain when I wake up and all these things. It's inherently rooted in helping people.
Hmm.
And I think that's why I actually got into coaching as well, because it is similar to that, just a little bit of a different avenue. But it all stems from, providing a service by actually helping someone get through something. And that's what really cemented it in my brain that it's something that I want to do. It's one of the most satisfying, um, happy experiences I've had in my life was, when I've taken an athlete from, not being able to do certain things to slowly, gradually building their confidence and then actually becoming better and stronger than they were before they even got their injury. And they come to me and they're like, how is this even possible? I've lifted more than I did before. And I was like, well, yeah, because you did your rehab.
You actually committed to it for once.
Yeah, exactly.
But that is why we all get into this. That is why most of us started coaching in the first place. Is because it's helping those people out. It's helping people in need and giving them the opportunity to potentially get to where they want to be, if not further. Like every time that a client comes to me or a client comes to you and they're like, I want to get X, Y, and Z. I've tried this, this, and this, and I don't feel I've made any progress in in like a year and a half. And then you go in, you train with them, you give them a plan, you give everything for the first 4 weeks, and they make more progress than they have in a year and a half. And they're like, how on earth have you done this? And it's kind of the reinforcement of you knowing what you know to help them and to improve them, but also the reinforcement of them recognizing how much you're changing their life and how much you're improving their life. And I think that's what's so rewarding for me is giving your people the opportunity to do what I do. Like obviously no one has to compete, no one has to like no one's forced to compete or do a photo shoot. If you don't want to do any of that, that's absolutely fine. Um, but at the same time, it's like I'm giving you the opportunity that if you wanted to do that, you can. I think that's what's so rewarding. It's like they think of the gym as this narrow thing where it's just you go to the gym, you train weights, and that's it. And you're aiming one day that you'll be in better shape. Whereas we kind of see the gym as this the gym is almost like a separate world. And when we introduce someone into what we do and how we do it in the level of detail and depth that we do it, it kind of opens up this world. And now all of a sudden they walk into the gym and they're like, whoa, what is this?
See it through a different lens. I think a big, big thing that I do with rehab is like, although the biomechanicy nitty-gritty stuff is really, really fucking important, it is a big component of rehab, which I think makes it the most effective and actually truly long-lasting, is the shifts in habits and mentalities. I'll give an example of a patient I recently rehabbed who had patella tendonitis. There's been a reoccurring injury for like 7 years, constantly flaring up. He's a hockey player, so every time he'd get into the competitive season, it'd flare up, flare up, flare up. Um, and yes, I gave him a bunch of rehab, and we were, strengthening key areas, which in his case was the hamstrings. One of the biggest shifts in his rehab, which I think was a big, big role or played a big role in him getting better, was the fact that I made him throw away his knee brace. So up until this point, he was like, my knee's super unstable. I need to wear a knee brace to run, to play hockey for the game. So he'd wear the knee brace to do his runs. He'd wear it in practice, but he couldn't wear it in the game, and he kept flaring it up in the game. And I was like, that's interesting you say that because essentially what you're doing with a knee brace is you're providing artificial stability for the joint. If you're providing artificial stability for a joint, the joint has no reason to be inherently stable. And we know that the chances, in terms of like on the intensity scale, you have running here, you have training here, and you have games here. So by essence, you playing a game is you have the highest risk of getting injured. So you're providing all this artificial stability when your intensity is low. But when you go into a game of high intensity, you take the knee brace off, and suddenly the knee's like, what the fuck? Like I can't work. I'm not stable. I've not been trained to be stable. So like even from the first consultation, he mentioned wearing a knee brace. I was like, mate, throw it away. Like chuck it. I never want to see it again. And I think that played a big role in his rehab. And, one of the things that the habits that I've instilled in him long term, I was like, look, don't be so quick to doubt your body. Don't be so quick to reach for, painkillers. Don't be so quick to reach for these artificial stabilizers, insoles, crutches, all of this. You just need to understand that your body has everything it needs to heal itself. And in order for you, like a big thing I preach is stress is the cure. You need to stress your body enough for it to adapt. If
Mhm.
you don't stress your body at all, your body will get weak. It's the same with muscles and hypertrophy, right? If you didn't train your side delt for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it'll probably look a little bit smaller. Like if you don't inherently try to force your knee to be stable for months, if not years, how do you expect it to be stable? You have to stress it.
Yeah, I think we see far too often people jumping to quick fixes, i.e., braces, wraps, and obviously all of these things. So, moving away from the rehab side more into the gym side, all of these things have their benefits. Yes. Um, would having knee sleeves and elbow sleeves help you in your presses? Yeah, probably. Would it make you more stable? Yeah, probably. Same thing with wrist wraps. If you're getting wrist pain, kind of thing, would wrist wraps stop the wrist pain? Yeah, it would. But at the same time, like you said, you're then not addressing the cause. So every time you're doing a heavy press movement, every time, or any press movement for that matter, because you know that a press will give you wrist pain, you then wear wrist wraps for every single pressing exercise. And then when you don't have your wrist wraps for some reason you're training and you suddenly get a load of wrist pain and you're really confused as to why that's happening, it's because you've worked for so long, you've built up weight for so long, relying on wrist wraps to stop you from having wrist pain. And then when you go to train without it, you're surprised that you get wrist pain all of a sudden. It's like um, when I started out, and I think I was looking to get knee sleeves for the first time. And my coach was like, "Do you have knee pain though?" And I was like, "No." And he went, "If you don't have knee pain, don't use them." And I was like, "Oh, why?" He's like, "Well, because if you have knee pain and then you use them, your knee isn't going to recover as well because you're then relying on this knee sleeve to stop you from having knee pain. Like, yes, it's a benefit. Yes, it's a short term fix. But in the long term, by wearing them all the time, by using them all the time, you're actually causing yourself more harm because you're not addressing the point, like you were saying." And I
Mm.
think you'd agree that we see far too often people who are a lot earlier in their lifting career using things like belts, using things like wraps, using things like sleeves, when actually they haven't built up the foundation that they need in the first place that would be more beneficial than wearing these things.
Mm. I'm actually gonna disagree with you on this point. I think I
Okay.
would flip the dynamic and I would say if you get knee pain, you shouldn't wear knee sleeves. And if you don't have knee pain, you can wear knee sleeves. Because the kind of thought process I have, if a client comes to me and they're like, I want to wear knee sleeves, I'm like, do you get knee pain? No. So you're not over relying on them. Why do you want to wear knee sleeves? It psychologically makes me more confident. It allows me to push further because I don't have to worry about me, injuring my knees. Cool, fine. But when it becomes, like you said, a codependence of being like, once I get to X amount of load, I need to put knee sleeves on because I don't have pain, then that addresses an underlying issue. And like I said, if you provide artificial stability, albeit knee sleeves, very minimal, but still will
Mm,
provide a little bit, your body will then not produce that stability itself. So if you have knee pain and you're constantly having to wear knee sleeves, the barrier, or let's say the amount of load that you need to wear knee sleeves for before you get pain will gradually decrease over time because you're relying on them more. And suddenly you're wearing knee sleeves for even more exercises again because you're relying on them more. So I would actually say if you get knee pain, I wouldn't wear any sleeves. I would start addressing the factors that are contributing to that knee pain. Like I said, maybe it's like a hip shift, a hip hike. Maybe you're lacking ankle mobility. maybe you're lacking hip mobility, whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
I would address that. And then once that is fixed, once you start gradually increasing the load again and you don't have pain, that's when you implement the knee sleeves. Um, and I think there was a big sort of narrative in like science-based lifting and people starting to use cuffs on everything. Cuff tricep push downs, cuff curls, all of this, right? Suddenly everyone started getting tendonitis. It's like, why is that? And it's like people aren't gripping shit anymore. You rarely ever see someone do like a dumbbell lateral raise or a dumbbell curl or even train their forearms. I think I'm the only person in my gym who actually trains their forearms. And
Yeah.
like I said, like your body goes into a situation where it's like if you don't use it, you lose it.
Hmm.
Suddenly you start fucking cuffing everything and you take out your wrist joint and your wrists are weak and you're getting wrist pain, Um, Part of like what I try and teach people is like to shift the dynamic back to doing like the original stuff.
Hmm.
Like I think it's come full circle and like we started off as like these meatheads just lifting barbells and throwing plates around to then becoming more logical and understanding different processes and refining things, single arm lat pull downs, etc. And that era was great, fucking fantastic. I remember 10 years ago, or like 5 years ago, people who are doing single arm lat pull downs being called science based. Like that was a golden era. And then we've come even further to now fucking people putting like foam rollers over their wrists
Roller
to do,
splints.
yeah, to do like shoulder adduction. It's like, oh, you need to train the shoulder in this plane of motion. And it's like, it's just a recipe for getting injured because you see people training with like the third of the range of motion they should have, using
Mm.
4 times the amount of load they should do, and only using one joint. And it's like, first of all, how is that fun? Second of all, how is that from a progressive standpoint? How is that gonna be something that you run up? You're gonna end up doing fucking 250 kilos of like 5 degrees of shoulder adduction. Like it just
Literally
doesn't
like
make
moving like
much
this.
sense.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
has enough.
exactly.
Like the rear delt's tiny. You don't need to work it in a full range of motion. This is okay. This will grow it.
It's like in this plane of motion, you can only target the fibers this way, so it's only 2 degrees of motion.
There's only three fibers I can target.
So like
Yeah.
I very much push people to come full circle and come back and be like, do you know what? There is no such thing as a bad lift. Every lift has its own place. I recently programmed barbell squats for a client, and I was having a conversation with Jack, and I was like, "There's absolutely nothing wrong with that." It's like we've become so science based that now barbell squatting is seen as like a not optimal exercise, and it's not going to grow your legs. Like,
Mm. I think I think it goes back to there's such a double-edged sword. I think it's very, very important that we, within our lifting journey, whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's a beginner, whatever, I think it is important to go through that science-based phase a little bit, more so for the fact of understanding instead of like overcritical. Like I went through a phase where I was using cuffs for like everything. Um, and then I kind of shifted away from it. But it was more for me. It was more to have an understanding of how it can benefit me and how I can isolate things more. And by doing it for X amount of time, it improved my mind muscle connection because I was able to isolate it more. Um, but at the same time, I wasn't overdoing it. I wasn't doing too much. I wasn't trying to do things that I couldn't do. Um, and like you said about the barbell squat, I think it's it's a very difficult one when it comes to those kind of movements like barbell squat, bench press, deadlift, dumbbell chest press, any of those kind of free weights. And I think the benefit is all of it utilizes more muscle groups. It utilizes more stability muscles, and it utilizes a higher, uh, not mental capacity. That's not the word. It uses more of
well,
your
does to be fair.
yeah, it uses more of your CNS. So you can get an increased amount of CNS fatigue, which will then improve your overall kind of body recovery and loads of other minimal shit. But I think the issue is because there's been this whole shift, things like a barbell squat, people aren't able to do correctly, or they aren't able to do it with enough stability, or they're not able to do it without getting pain from certain things. And then moving it to say a Smith squat, where they can say, for example, they have a muscle imbalance. One leg is slightly weaker than the other. So when they do into a squat, the bar kind of shifts a little bit. They're working harder with their right than their left. And then like by programming a barbell squat, you're actually increasing the amount of issues that you're causing because of that, because they're then using this imbalance, and this imbalance is getting bigger over time. Whereas when you shift it to say a Smith squat, like, yes, it's more optimal, but at the same time, you can focus more about driving from that weak side without worrying about the bar being on an angle, or the bar, or you focusing more on the right leg. And it goes back to when I was training at the gym years ago, when I was at the very start of my journey. My best mate at the time, he didn't get on with bench press at all. I was doing barbell, he couldn't, because one side was weaker than the other, and he was always kind of pressing in a wonky movement, and he was always getting pain because of it, because he was overcompensating all the time. So he switched to Smith, and then he fixed the issue, and then you come back to barbell. So I think it's very important you kind of go through that phase of starting out meathead, going a bit isolation, going a bit science-based and nerdy, and then going back to meathead almost, because you've gone through that full cycle, you've gained that back, and now all of a sudden you've got the knowledge, you've got the expertise, and now you can actually apply that properly into the meathead thing to make it science-based but meathead.
Yeah, I think there's people going into like science-based stuff is just a natural progression of them simply caring about the process. Because the reason the whole science-based thing became a thing is because people were asking the questions, how can I get more out of this? How can I be better?
Mm-hmm.
Which inherently is a very positive thing, and without the science-based stuff, would training be where it is now? 100% not. It is really, really fucking important. But I think there's a certain turning point where people just become too anal with it and they try and micromanage too many things. And I think one of the most important things about the gym is the enjoyment. So you were saying all the reasons of like programming, these heavier compounds, the squats, barbell squats, deadlifts, etc. The biggest reason I would program those for people was just for enjoyment. If they come to me and they're like, I really want a deadlift, I want to be fucking strong at deadlifts.
100%.
Cool. There's at the end of the day, longevity is so important in this sport. And if you're going into the gym simply just to get bigger and you're doing these foam roller shoulder adductions that you simply do not enjoy, what's the point? Like, what's the point? It just defeats the whole purpose. Like, I don't know how you started training, but I started training in lockdown, and we all we had access to was a garage with a bunch of dusty plates, a bench, and a barbell. And I remember my push session would consist of barbell bench press, barbell bench press with legs up, close grip barbell press, barbell shoulder press, and then Russian twists with the plates.
The old drive the steering wheel. Yeah.
And that's how I learned how to train. And it was so far from optimal, so far
But it
from
was fun.
optimal, but it was fun. But it was fun. And
Yeah.
that's what people are missing in the gyms nowadays. Like, if you want to be really fucking strong and lift some heavy weight, go fucking do it. It's probably going to build you some muscle. The issue is like people are stemming too far, I think, into this category of like being so anal about things that they're just not enjoying it for what it
Mm.
is. Just enjoy the training, enjoy getting strong, enjoy lifting heavy weights, because you're not going to be able to lift these weights forever, especially if you're enhanced. You've only got X amount of time doing this stuff. Once you
Think
get older,
I think this is the difference in the, I wouldn't even say era, because like me and you haven't been here for a huge amount of time. Like
Two
we
unks.
literally, we both probably got, yeah, we're both hunks now. We both probably got into the gym within like the last 10 years, whatever. Um, so to see how far the gym environment has shifted in that time is pretty crazy. But at the same time, it's like, especially being a coach, you see it more and more now that people are getting into the gym because they want to bodybuild and they want to get big. And the thing that, like, I think that's amazing in the terms of bodybuilding is expanding the what's the word, the fact that they understand how important it is to have goals. They understand, they have set themselves targets in physique and in development and those things like that. I think that's amazing. But the one thing that's then missed out is they get into the gym for this thing that they won't achieve in 20 years, until 20 years time. Whereas I got in the gym because I was a swimmer at the time. It made training easier. It made training better. It made my performance better. And then I fell into love with it a bit more. I was then going with my friends. We were blasting hard style, cycling to the gym, like those kind of things. Like everything, the gym was this thing, and all of my enjoyment came around it because of that. So I found more passion and more enjoyment in the gym because of everything else that was associated with that process. Whereas now people are trying to find enjoyment from the gym alone, and they're trying to get their enjoyment out of the process of the gym instead of everything that comes from it. Like everything I do in my life now surrounds the gym, but has been given to me as opportunities because of what the gym has given me. But I wouldn't have any of that if I didn't have any of the opportunities I had outside of the gym that were related to doing it, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like everything you do that gives you the opportunity around what you love is going to be far more beneficial than just going for the sake of X, Y, and Z and going for the sake of trying to be the next Ronnie Coleman, even though you've never stepped foot in the gym before. So it's like, and being white, like, but that's just like there's a double-edged sword. It's like people are trying to get into it for a reason instead of just getting into it for the love of getting into it and just having fun with it and learn how to train, enjoy training, enjoy all of that. Then once you've done that, then look at bodybuilding, then look at pursuing a career, then look at whatever. But in the meantime, just fucking love the process. It's not hard. Like the reason why you see all of these successful people is because they love what they do day in, day out. If you're forcing yourself into that world, if you're forcing yourself into that process, you're not going to love it. And you might love it now, you might love it in 2 years, but in 10, 20, 30 years, you won't see yourself doing the same thing. Um, what's your input?
So I wanted to become a bodybuilder because I loved training and I saw it as a natural progression for me to take it more seriously. Not I wanted to be a bodybuilder so badly that I have to train.
Mm-hmm.
It's a natural progression of you loving training, and it's like, how can I take this to the next level? And then you get into bodybuilding. Not you shouldn't get into bodybuilding because you want to be a bodybuilder and then you have to train. Like training is the enjoyable aspect of it. Like every single bodybuilder would tell you the same thing. They love training. Yes, they love being a bodybuilder. But the reason they love being a bodybuilder is because they love training first, and that love for training has flown and carried over through the years, decades. They've done this. And like you said, when you're so solely focused on the end goal, it's so easy to get caught up in there or in, I'm going to step on stage in 2028. I'm going to be shredded in 2028. But what about now? Like,
Yeah.
what
What
about
about
the
now? What
comeback?
about next year? What about the year after? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, what about this next gaining phase when you're going to run up barbell Smith squats? What about the gaining phase after that when you're going to focus on your posterior? Like, all these things that come in between that. Like a good bodybuilder gets excited about the little things. Yes, it's important to plan ahead, right? We've been talking about this prep that I'm having for 3 years with Jack. Does that mean that, every single day leading up to this prep, I was like, I can't wait to prep in 2026. I'm going to get on stage. I'm going to be so lean. No, every single phase I was focused on what I'm doing today, what I'm doing right now, what I'm executing as a person right now. And every single phase, I got so much fulfillment out of it because I'm living in the process. I'm part of the journey every single day, and I'm showing up for myself. Don't get me wrong. I'm very much a big advocate for, planning things ahead and having high aspirations and very much being competitive. I think recently I've noticed there's been a narrative, especially within natural bodybuilders, for people to be like, you have to love the process. Yes, stepping on stage is important, but you shouldn't do it if you don't want to win. And I actually disagree with that because I think
100%.
within any other sport, we're willing to accept the competitive spirit. You don't see football players go into a Europa final or a UFA final being like, oh, I don't want to win this. You don't see two boxers, people love to make this comparison, but you don't see like two MMA fighters going up against each other and just being like, yeah, I'm just going to let him win. I don't give a fuck about winning. I'm doing this for the process. I'm doing this whole camp for the process, right? Like, we've gone so far away from like, okay, you have to love the process to now like that there isn't any competitive spirit anymore.
Hmm.
And I remember I posted something in my story last week. Someone asked me like, what are the plans for the show? And I was like, I want to win. And people were messaging me being like, you can't say that. What do you mean you want to win? I was like, am I so bad for wanting to
For wanting
win
to
a
win.
bodybuilding show? Like, am I going through a prep and have been really fucking consistent for the past 6 years of my life leading up to this one moment for me to be like, I don't want to win. I just want
Mm.
to get a participation trophy. Like, the whole point of you stepping on stage is because it's a competition. You're getting compared to other people. And if you're so scared of losing, then bodybuilding isn't for you. Like, winners are just losers that never gave up. Am I saying I am going to win my show? No. I'm saying I want to win. What's going to happen if I don't win? I'll just be
Nothing.
better. Yeah, I'll just be better next time round. In fact, I'll be glad. Yes, it's going to sting. Of course, it's going to sting because I care.
But then you can
But
work harder.
and that's going to be rocket fuel. And I'll have the judges' feedback. I'll know exactly what I need to work on. I'll give it to my coach. He programs me a plan. I do what I'm asked. I come back the next year and I do better. And people underestimate, or sorry, people overestimate what they can do in a short amount of time and underestimate what they can do in an extended amount of time. Bodybuilding is a longevity sport. Your first season is the smallest and the worst you'll ever look on stage.
Hmm.
Like, you're going to continually improve
But
if you
it's
are part.
also the biggest you'll ever feel.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why it's so fun. But I've been having a lot of conversations with people about this, but like I really think people need to bring back the competitive spirit in bodybuilding and stop shunning away from like, not wanting to win and being sore losers. I think people naturally paint this sort of demographic of people who want to win, people who are confident, as people who are sore losers.
Hmm.
But that's not the case. Like, yes, like I said, it's going to sting. Obviously, it's going to sting. You care. Like, if you came, I don't know, seventh at a bodybuilding show and that didn't piss you off, you don't care enough. Like you simply don't want it bad enough. Like, there should be some sort of inherent voice in your head being like, I'll get him next time. I'll do better next time. I'll be better
Mm.
next time. Like, anytime I've gone through a loss in my life, whether that's financial, business, relationship, anything like that, yes, it stung, but you take the necessary adaptations and the teachings and the lessons from that, and you just keep it stepping and you just become better. And I think people are so scared of losing, so scared, as if it's such a bad thing. But I flip that narrative and I almost want to lose because, like you said, if you have the right mentality, that's just fucking rocket fuel, you know?
There's two sides of the story there. from the points that you made. The first one is, um, yes, you're going to win. Yes, your mindset is that you want to win and you want to be the best and all of that. But at the same time, you also have the mentality that if you don't win, that's okay. If you don't win, that's fine. Like, you can use that. You can progress from that. You can find out what you did wrong, what you could do better, how you can improve. But at the same time, it's like you're going to win, but you're not fixated on placement. You're still present. You're still there in the moment. You're still understanding what to do on the day, how to feel on the day, how to improve on the day. Everything around the show, everything around what you're doing leading up to it, your prep, your peak week, your high days, everything is surrounding about the fact that you want to win. But if you don't, that's okay. And I think that's the difference is like you say on you, oh, you want to win on your stories, and people are like, oh, you can't say that. You can't say that. It's like the difference is I want to win, but if I don't, that's fine. That's the mentality that I have. And it's like, and that isn't a pussy mindset. That isn't a, I, like, I'm happy to lose. Of course, I won't be happy to lose. But if I'm so fixated on I need to win, if I don't win, all hell breaks loose. Like I'm not gonna progress in life. I'm not gonna progress in the sport because I'm so utterly fixated that I nitpick every single thing that if I don't win, then I'll run myself into the ground and I'll make things harder. Because instead of that person who wants to win, doesn't win and rebounds super well because they want to improve, compared to the person that wants to win, everything is relied on them winning. They put so much pressure on themselves because they need to win. And if they don't win, then the whole, like, they've lost everything in life. I think that's the difference between, there's two athletes there. One who progresses and one who eventually wins it all, and one who progresses really far in the sport, and the other one who dries themselves out and eventually just fucks off in the sport because they can't handle the pressure, they can't handle the stress, they run themselves into a mindset where they just can't function anymore. Like, that is your two sides. It's like, which side do you want to choose? Do you want to be the person who has longevity in the sport and can improve and can be better and can be the best? Or do you want to be that person that puts so much unbelievable stress on themselves that they just can't focus properly? They can't see themselves properly. Like, they look in the mirror, they go, oh, you're fucking shit. And then they go off on their day. And it's like, you're just creating this mentality that you might be training as hard as possible, but I can promise you your body will not be responding simply for the fact that you're not in the mindset to improve. Like, you're in a spiral of um, a spiral of overthinking, a spiral of self criticization.
Criticism.
Yeah, well, shut up. Same thing. But yeah, that is the spiral that you're in. Um, that's one point. And the second point is uh, going back on what you were saying about you need to be in the process. You need to love the process. You have to have everything nailed, all of that. Um, I think that's great once you're in the sport. I think that's great once you've done a few shows, once you've done a few seasons, once you've got experience. And then once you've done 2 seasons, 3 seasons, and then you're like, okay, I really want to progress in this. I want to be pro. I want to be whatever. I think then, yes, nail the process, live in the moment, like, love it all. Because if you don't, you won't get there. But at the same time, if it's your first season, right? To make mistakes. Don't, like, have days where you're completely off the rails and learn from it. Like, have weeks where you're really hard on yourself and then you come around it and you look back and you're like, why the fuck was I so hard on myself? Like, I think there's such a stigmatism now with owning the process and living like how you need to live, um and not missing a beat when you're 16 years old and like you've only just been born into this fucking world. Do you know what I mean? It's like you've only just started this process. You've been in the gym for a year, and you're talking about I nail the process. I don't skip a beat. I think that's great, but like there's no longevity with that. Like
Mm.
you're not winning anything. You're not winning a trophy from nailing the process at 16 compared to someone who's still bumming out at 23. Like there's no difference between this. Um, and it simply goes back to what we were saying about enjoyment. Like you're not gonna get long-term enjoyment out of making your life so thin and so small and so narrow-minded at such a young age. Like you've got so much time. Like I didn't even think about nailing the process until I was like 20. Like I was drinking at 16, I was drinking at 17, I was drinking at 18, I was drinking at 19. Like I was doing things, I was going to raves, I was going to clubs, I was going to festivals. I was doing things that I wanted to do that would give me life experience, cool. But then at the same time, I then focused on what I want to do and progress my career, and that's great. But like you don't need to be the youngest thing. You don't need to be the youngest, because that might give you short-term success, but that won't give you long-term enjoyment.
Mm. Spitting facts. I always like to link the analogy of bodybuilding to business. And it's like in business, like you have two separate reactions. Let's say you have a really bad month, and you find out, you do some digging and you find out that your retention is really poor, right? There's like two separate reactions to this. So you've taken a loss, you've lost X amount of clients, your monthly revenue has gone down by this. You either get really upset about it, you're like, oh, coaching's not for me, blah, blah, and you get into your own feelings, or you take it on the chin and you're like, this loss has taught me exactly what I need to work on. All right. And it's the same thing with bodybuilding, the exact same thing. You take a loss on the chin, you either get really emotional about it, you wanted this so bad, you worked so fucking hard, you nailed everything, and you get in your own head, or you simply see it as what it is. It's an opportunity to understand exactly what you need to improve on and what you need to do in order to become better. And like you said there, like I think people glamorize the bodybuilding lifestyle so much on social media, so much. And it's so easy to see all these coaches and all these bodybuilders and all of this living the perfect lifestyle, weighing out all their salt and fucking training perfectly, nutrition's perfect, getting 12 liters of water a day, like doing 25,000 steps supposedly. But when you actually have conversations with people, especially high level coaches, like we had Christian on the pod yesterday, you actually realize how inconsistent people are. I think he mentioned out of all of the preps he has done in his career, 30 to 40% have been unsuccessful. So actually, like, put that into perspective. This man has got hundreds of people on stage, and there's about a 60% chance that someone who comes to him wanting to step on stage actually gets on stage.
Mm.
So like, don't be so quick to, and I've been guilty of this myself, like I try to be as real as I can in my story, but not everyone is living this perfect lifestyle, and everything you see on social media is what they want you to see.
Mhm.
You don't get to see them, sitting staring at a Jaffa cake when they're in prep because they're so fucking hungry. You don't see them, kicking their feet, doing their steps in the morning. You don't see them having a midday nap because they're so fucking tired they can't even get out of bed. Like, these things are silent battles, and a big reason why I love bodybuilding. Because I asked myself the question at the beginning of this prep. I was like, why actually am I a bodybuilder? What actually makes me stay as a bodybuilder? I got into bodybuilding because of a breakup, but why am I still here? And the short answer to that is the silent battles. I think the things that no one sees, the small triumphs that you beat yourself in your brain, that's what bodybuilding is to me. Like we were saying it on the pod yesterday, it's like Jack doesn't have a dog collar on my ankle counting how many steps I do. I could not do them, or I could lie. He doesn't he doesn't know, right? That is my choice and my responsibility and something that I am willingly, actively choosing to do. Is it hard? Yes, but it's my choice.
Hmm.
And I'm actively, willingly choosing to go through that. And I think that's what bodybuilding is about. It's winning the small battles in your head. It's being like, I don't care if everyone else is doing this. They might be doing it, they might not be doing it, but I'm going to do it because
Hmm.
I hold myself to a certain standard and I am a bodybuilder.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point there. I think it's very true in the fact that there's only so much as coaches that we see and we can hold you accountable for. At the end of the day, it's down to you. Um, I've fallen accountable to this many times. Like, don't get me wrong. Do I try and be as perfect as I can? Yes. Does that fail? 90% of the time. Because I can't be perfect. Like, I'm working a full-time job, which means that I'm working 12 to 14 hours a day. Some days, some weeks, 4 times a day, some 4 times a week, sometimes 5 times a week, sometimes 3 times a week. Like, I can't be perfect. Like, do I want to get up at 5 a.m. to then train, to then go to work for 14 hours, to then do some steps and cardio in the evening and then come home? No. Do I do it? Sometimes, but not all the time, because it's very, very difficult for me to motivate myself knowing that I then have another 14-hour day. So it's kind of like, do I want to go and do cardio and do steps and then get home at midnight and then wake up again at 5 to then go train and then go, like, it's just not sustainable. So for me, it's kind of like, how can I make what I do as perfect as possible in the world that I live in, not the world that you live in, not the world that the person listening to this lives in, not the world that Christian lives in, because we're all in different worlds. If I was a full-time coach, yes, I could be more perfect. Do I think that when I leave my job and I go full-time coaching, hopefully in the future, that my bodybuilding career will be better? 100%. Why? Because I can actually create a routine. Every week will be the same. Every day of every week will be the same. Like, I'll be able to create routines, step routines, food routines. I'll be able to have allotted times for different things. Like, I would have like a podcast time. I'll have like this, that, and the other kind of thing. Like, I'll have so much more freedom to then fill my time, if that makes more sense. It's like, just because I won't be working my full-time job doesn't mean that I'll then have hours and hours and hours free, because what I'll do is I'll create a schedule that keeps me busy throughout the whole day, but is what I want to do. Instead of finding myself in a situation where I've done 14 hours of work, I've done 2,000 steps, and I'm like, I've got another 6,000 steps to do tonight. Will that be done? Most likely not. Because is it worth me standing on a treadmill for an hour and a half, 2 hours at 10 o'clock at night to then go to bed, to then wake up in the morning and not really see any difference and actually see more fatigue on my body because I haven't slept well? I've over fatigued myself from being on the treadmill for far too long at such a long way. I've had no food for the last 5 hours and I'm then doing like 300 calories burnt kind of thing. It's like, it's just ridiculous. And sometimes you've got to be realistic. I've got to remember I'm only 21. I've got to remember that I've got so many years in this. So why, like, yes, I put pressure on myself to be the best bodybuilder I can be, but that is the key thing. The best bodybuilder I can be, not the best bodybuilder that Kamil can be, not the best bodybuilder that Jay Cutler could be. Like, we're all in a different world. We're all in different situations. So instead of looking on Instagram and ridiculing yourself because you're not in a position that someone else is in, just live your own fucking life. It's as simple as that. It's like, live the process you want to live, enjoy the process you want to live, and be the best person you can be in the situation you're in.
I think I 100% agree with everything you said. I think this underlines the importance of getting a good coach because every single person's subjective experience of life is going to be different. And like you said it perfectly, my bodybuilding journey is going to be very much different to your bodybuilding journey, which is going to be very much different to Jack's bodybuilding journey. We're all in our own lane. And I think having a separate input that can look at the data objectively, not factor in emotions, not factor in all these things that might be going on in your life that you might not particularly notice,
Hmm.
um, and simplify things and do them for you. Like in your case specifically, you're working these 14-hour days, you're having to fit all of this around these things. Like doing that without a coach would be such a head fuck. Um, Especially I noticed this myself. I went for a very, very similar position. I was fortunate enough where I could cut down my days in clinic to 2 days. So I work weekends and Monday to Friday I work on the business. But at the beginning when I wasn't making that much money from coaching and I was just starting out working clinics, so I didn't have many patients. I was working like 5 days in clinic and then doing the business on the weekends, which wasn't a really positive environment to scale the business. But at the end of the day, we just shifted my program. We adjusted certain things. We made it more maintainable, but I probably wouldn't have been able to do that with a coach. In fact, I'm going to say I wouldn't have been able to do that with a coach because I probably would have let emotions get the best of me and be like, oh, like I can't be a bodybuilder. I've started my full-time job. What's going on? My business is not scaling, all of this. And sometimes you just need the person to sit down and be like, shut the fuck up with this, you know?
I think that's um, almost the reason I feel like having myself as a coach for someone else who's either younger than me or even older than me. I have been through a fucking lot at my age, and I'm not saying that I've been through more than everyone else, and I'm not saying that my life is harder than everyone else, because I can guarantee you for a fact that people are working 9, 10, 11 times harder than me. Um, but at the same time, it's like, for what I do compared to everyone else around me, compared to people that I talk to, compared to everyone I know that's my age, like I can tell you for a fact that I work 10 times harder than them. Like I own a podcast, I own my own coaching business, I work 40 hours a week doing 14-hour days. I'm also trying to pursue being a bodybuilder. It's like if I don't already have loads of things on my plate, I try and add more all the time because that is just the person I am. It's like, how can I
Hungry.
exactly, how can I improve my life more? Like, how can I make this situation that I'm in that is really hard? How can I make it harder temporarily to then make it easier? Um, and that's always the way I've been. It's like people would be asking me, "Oh, when's your next holiday?" And it's like, I'm not going on one. It's like I'm not going on one. It's like, why not? I'm like,
2029.
because I don't need a holiday. I don't need this getaway from life that you're so desperate for. It's like because I enjoy what I do. I love what I do. My life is actually somewhat enjoyable. Yes, do I enjoy my job? Sometimes. But it's like the rest of it, like the actual life I live, the opportunities I have, the whatever. I love it. I love this shit. Um, and the opportunity to go away for a week, 2 weeks to some remote place that isn't where I live, that's like this dreamy heaven. It's like, yeah, that's great. But what do you do for those 2 weeks? Because I can promise you, like, I went snowboarding for a week, and at the end of it, I sat at the table with the rest of my family, and I said that this is actually quite delinquent behavior. It's like how can someone do this for half a year? It's like you literally feel like you're unemployed on the slopes. Like what? You wake up in the morning, you snowboard for 8 hours, you come back. I sat in the sauna for 2 hours. No, I sat in the sauna, a steam room, an illusion room for 2 hours, and then I had dinner, and then I went to bed. It's like that. In my opinion, that's the most unemployed shit you can ever do. Um, and at the end of it, I was like, I'm so glad I get to go home. I'm so glad I get to go back to working. I'm so glad I get to go back and train. And it's like these things are really important to me because I want to progress my life and my career. So for me to push myself in those kind of ways is the stimulus I need. Sitting on a beach for a week is like probably it's amazing, but it's also my idea of hell because I'm not doing anything. Like, I hate that. I hate not doing things. I went to Aruba for 17 days. We did stuff for the first week, and then the rest of it, like, we'd done so much already that we'd done everything, and then we were just sitting around for 10 days. And I'm just like, I'm so fucking bored. Like,
Mm,
and like, don't get me wrong, I loved the place. I loved the environment. I loved going out with my brothers and having fun and enjoying myself. But I felt like I wasn't doing anything. Um,
mm,
and I can't stand that. I can't stand not doing stuff. Like, I like making myself busy. If I lie in the moment, I'll love it. And then I'll be like, oh, why the fuck did I done that? Like, I've literally wasted 3 hours of my day because I wanted to sit in bed and do nothing and scroll on TikTok. It's like, it's a waste of my time. Um, and I think that's the mentality where it's like, I understand that kicking myself won't improve it and won't make things better and won't mean that I'm a better person. But at the same time, I need that kind of kick myself to potentially change it in the future and potentially make that decision to not do it. So it's like, I'm not perfect. In no way will I ever probably be perfect, because my urges for cookies is just too much. But at the end of the day, it's like, how can I be the best version of myself without jeopardizing the rest of my life? Pretty much.
100%. I think what a privilege to be tired from the work you so desperately dreamed of doing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Something I think I said on the pod yesterday. Um, it's crazy because like I'm sure you're in the same boat. Had you have told us, a couple of years ago, we'd be in this position, and it's not even about how successful we are because we're not, not at this stage, but to even have the opportunity to do what we do now, to have podcasts, to help change people's lives, to pursue a career in bodybuilding and actually commit to the process and be consistent and own it and be proud of it, to be building something that's actually our own. Like I was very, very fortunate in the sense of I went straight into self-employment after uni. Because the way osteopathy works, even though you're working in a clinic, you're still technically self-employed. Um, and now that I've gone fully self-employed, I don't think I could ever go back to working for someone. I don't know about you, but I would rather make half the amount of money self-employed, but have something that is mine that I have built on my own back and no one can take away from me.
It's more
Then
time for me.
yeah, it's time, but it's also a sense of pride, I think, for me, because you spend so much time, so much effort, so much dedication into growing this thing. Like me and Jack always say, like this business is our baby. Like we treat it like that. We treat it so much respect because we see how much effort like, all of us put into it, and Matty as well now since we brought him on.
Hmm.
Um, and like I said, like it's such a blessing to it gives you almost a kick up the arse to want to build it and grow it because you care about it so much and it is yours. You could bust your ass working for someone else, like try really hard to get that promotion, go above and beyond in every single fucking metric, 655 days of the year, and still not get that promotion.
What
Whereas
do you get in return? Out of all of that hard work, out of all that effort, apart from money that you've put in, what do you get back from them?
from them, nothing.
Exactly.
For from yourself as a person, I think there's a lot of growth you would get, but from them, nothing.
Yes, but no. Because, like, how can you monitor the growth? How can you um, reinforce to yourself that you've improved if the people that you're working so hard for aren't giving you that back? And I
That's
think
true.
that's the difference between working for someone. Like, don't get me wrong, there are many, many workplaces out there that probably are extremely supportive and will reinforce you after everything. I'm yet to be in one of those jobs, but but like being self-employed is like everything that you don't need someone to tell you that you're doing well because you can see by your client base growing. You can see by your, like, by my podcast views growing. The blessing of having people share my podcast on their story, say that they've really enjoyed this, they've really enjoyed that, they've loved this episode. Like, it's just unbelievable amounts of joy. Like, even
Mm.
having a client tell me that this week's the best week they've ever had, they feel amazing. Like, they can't believe how much progress they've made in the last thing, blah blah blah. They wouldn't make it, they wouldn't have made so much progress without me. It's like, a lot of this, yes, it sounds somewhat selfish, but it isn't, because everything I do is for other people. My podcast is for other people. Like, I get benefit from it. I get to talk to amazing people. I get to have sick conversations and call it an employment. But at the same time, I'm doing it for you. It's like, what episode can I bring out next that will bring so much information to you, will bring so much beneficial to you? It's like, and go back to what you were saying, is if I could talk to myself 3, 4, even like a year ago, tell myself that I had a podcast which has just reached over 2,100 streams total, that I've released 20, gonna be 21 episodes, that I've had people like Jace, I've had people like Tim Physique, I've had like people like that on here. I've had Jordan Peters reshare my podcast, like these kind of little things. But even like having a client base of people that actually look up to me and um, strive to be better, to impress me and to improve me, like improve what I do. Bonkers, bonkers. Because I just love it.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
And I think that's why I love self-employment so much, because it actually makes you look forward to doing the work, and then
Mm.
makes the grind of the pleasure. People always talk about, the come up and how difficult it is, when you have dry months, when things aren't going your way, etc. But when it's yours, you thrive in it. And there's a certain element of calmness you have because it's yours, and if you stick with it, the ship's not going to sink, you know?
But what is a dry month? Like, a dry month in terms of you're not getting clients in, okay? So that just gives you more time to improve what you do and improve your business and focus on the clients that you currently have. Like, the thing is, and you see it far too often within these kind of business mentorships and business as a whole. They're like, I've had a dry month. It's like the worst thing in the world. Like, it's horrible. Like, I hate it. And I'm like, mate, I've been having dry months for the last 3 months. It's like, so what? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it gives me an opportunity to improve my business. It gives me an opportunity to focus more on my clients. It gives me an opportunity to focus on what I'm doing in terms of content, in terms of the message I'm trying to put out there, in terms of like what I do day to day. It's like, a dry month means nothing. Like, if you're so desperate to grow your business in 3 months and like it's this life or death situation, like, it's not. It's not. Like, you can have dry months for half a year, but that just means that's half a year where you can improve your business to a point where it's undeniable that people should join you. And that's
Yeah.
how you should see it.
I remember last year, I didn't get a single client for 8 months straight. And there was one month where I got like 10 clients. And it just comes to show, like, yes, growing the business is important, but just try and be a better fucking coach. Like, just try and provide a better service, try and educate people more. Don't use ChatGPT to make your fucking reels. Like, actually put effort into it. And be active on stories, have these polls, answer people's questions, go on podcasts, all of this, like, be proactive. If you have more time because you're nowhere near capacity, yes, obviously you should use that time to commit to other things, but also that just gives you room to grow the separate areas of the business. Like, it doesn't always have to be admin, 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 admin. Like,
Mm-hmm.
spend some time educating yourself. Like, we're building an educational platform at the moment. That is something that's really beneficial for people, and all of our clients have access to fucking hours, whole syllabuses of content in order to help them. Like, there's so much stuff that you can do within the business, and ultimately, like, if you can provide a fucking fantastic service, that's going to get you clients. It just takes
Hmm.
time. The longer you work with someone, the better job you do, the more likely they are to go up to another person and be like, "I've been working with Charlie for a year, and he is fucking amazing. He's worth every single
Thanks,
penny."
Camille.
And like, and those referrals, that's fucking gold. That's gold
Priceless.
because
It's priceless.
it's not just about getting clients in the door. And a lot of like business mentors and high, level coaching agencies are very much like that, chucking around 50K a month, 100K a month. At that point, it becomes less of a people thing and more of a money thing or a number on the screen, right? Like, it's not just about how many people you get in the door, it's about the quality of the people you get in the door. And by growing your brand and openly talking about your values, your opinions, who you are as a person, is naturally going to attract people that resonate with you. And those are the people that you want to work with. Like, say, for example, you grow a coaching business and you're a bodybuilder, but the only clients that you had is 50-year-old moms with arthritis, right? Not to say that that's bad. You'd still get the job done. However, that doesn't resonate with your capabilities
Hmm.
and the type of people that you want to work with. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure there's a coach who coaches 50-year-old mums. Shout out my boy Will. um, but at the end of the day, like, don't just be so caught up on the number. I have 10 clients, I have 15 clients, because it's not just about the number of clients, it's the quality of the clients you have and the service that you provide for them.
That's the thing. Like, I, as much as numbers is important, like having an income where I can depend on it and I can do it full time. Yes. Is that important? Really? Yes. But I will never be that person where it's like, I need to hit 20K months. I need to hit 25K months. I need to hit 30K months, because that isn't the driver for me. Like,
Hmm.
we were literally talking about it on the pod with Jack, and it was like, he'd rather not, he'd rather cap early and actually give the clients the treatment and the um, service they deserve and what they've paid for, instead of chasing a figure which doesn't actually benefit you much more than what you're already earning. Like, you're earning 10, 20K a month. It's like, do you actually need more than that? Like, what,
So
like
true.
when you go beyond that, like, what is it for? Like, what do you need 50K months for? What do you need 100K months for? Like, what do you actually need it for? Like, what benefit are you getting, which is more than you're getting from 20K? Because I can promise you from a fact, those who aren't focused on 50, 100K months and are earning 10 to 20K months, I can tell you for a fact that their quality of life is going to be so much better than yours, because you're so fixated on driving for this 50K, 100K. It's like, cool, but what have you gained? Like, once you hit that 50K milestone, once you hit that 100K milestone, what? How's your life changed? Because it hasn't. Because once you hit that, it's like, all right, 200K. Once you hit that, it's like 400K. It's like, you're living in this unrealistic expectation. And um, yes, you can have generational wealth, cool. But at the same time, do you not want your kids to go through what you've done? Do you not want your kids to have the same passion, the same drive, the same ambition that you do? It's like, do you want to give them everything on a gold platter when you didn't have that? It's like, you're almost creating this life for your kid that almost is going to have no drive and no ambition because you've paid for it. Daddy's paid for everything. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and that's the one thing that I've never really understood. I think generational wealth is really cool, but at the same time, it's like, I'd rather teach my kids the values that I've learned and the hardship that I've been through, and almost not put them through it, but show them the beauty of it and the beauty of hard work and the beauty of delayed gratification, and all of those things that come with it, instead of pay for everything and have them set for life. It's like the quality of life of lottery winners is tiny because they spend it all in the
Yeah,
first
spend
two,
it all
3 years. Yeah.
on
It's
drugs
like,
and strippers.
exactly. What a life. But yeah, on that note, Kamil, everyone, thank you very much for joining me. I've really enjoyed this. This has been a sick chat. I hope you've had fun as well. Where can people find you?
On Instagram, Kamil_Academy. If you have any injuries, shout at me.
Sick. And what can people see from you in the next year? Yeah, near 2 years.
Me competing, hopefully.
Sick.
And
Awesome.
hopefully winning some things if I don't eat a cookie at 2 weeks out.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining me. If you have made it this far, thank you very much, guys. Leave a like, leave a subscribe. If you have any questions for Kamil or myself, please drop them in the comments or feel free to message them directly. But if you've listened this long, thank you very much, and we'll speak to you soon. Peace out.